Well, I think it had a couple of impacts. The initial impact, of course, was that the market sold off. But what was so interesting about that sell-off is that the sell-off was only really happening in some of the high growth stocks and some of the big tech stocks, and in NASDAQ in particular. But some of the other sectors actually have rallied starting on last Friday and are continuing to rally. And those are the ones that have always interested me because they're more representative of the US economy. So I think that what really happened from this is that the market started to price in a possible Biden win because A, the way the debate went, then B, the fact that Trump was sick, and then C, he's been somewhat cavalier about this illness, and that is also boosting Biden in the polls. So what did the market do? The market actually went more towards value stocks, anticipating that if Biden wins, he's going to tax some of these larger corporations, but it might be better for our burgeoning trade deficit and also for more stimulus. So that's what we're seeing in the market right now. So his illness was one catalyst, but really the bigger picture is, I think, what it's done in terms of perception for the market and who might win. There's always silver linings. It's Donald Trump. He's the master of being able to spin something into making it work for him. And his base will always follow him no matter what happens. I think that the silver lining for him is that what it's probably going to at least suggest for many Americans is that you can be 74, high risk. You can be overweight, also considered high risk. And even though he's the president of the United States and obviously got the best health care that anyone can possibly imagine, it's not necessarily a death sentence. So I think that may be one silver lining in that he is encouraging the fact that the economy can still open. Not everybody's going to die from this like it was initially feared. He may not express that well, but I think that's what he's trying to say. And secondly, I think it might promote some mask wearing to some people who have been skeptical, even though he's still very confusing about what the message is with the mask. But nonetheless, I think those are the two silver linings. I don't think it's going to pour sympathy for him that he was sick. I think it's going to be more like the people who think that he's a warrior and can basically get through anything are going to say, you see, he got through this. And not just him. I mean, I think that people will dismiss his recovery more so because they know that he was given every possible treatment and was monitored 24/7. Most people will not get that kind of care. Most people don't even wind up going to the hospital. And if they do go to the hospital, they're certainly not getting any experimental treatments like he got with that cocktail that Regeneron had put out. But now it's trickled into all these other people who are testing positive. So I think that the infection rate is certainly proving to be high. But what's really still now remains to be seen is how do these other people recover without getting that top-notch health care that he got, number one. And number two is just in general, in terms of how fast the infection spreads, what the actual death rate will be. Right now, the assumption is maybe not so bad. Death rate has not spiked. And we're still not even in the winter yet. This is just still, we're in the beginning of October. We still have November, December, January, when the normal flu season starts. There's a lot of unknowns, Jackie, tons of them right now. But to me, the most interesting thing is if we separate all of that analysis and just look at what the market is doing, right now it's telling us that the manufacturing sector, which is the supply side within the United States, even with the trade deficit at record highs since 2006, that the transportation sector and the retail sector and even the financial sector are now outperforming. And that means that somewhere this optimism that has spurred from all of this is showing that maybe the economy can recover from this, even if it takes more stimulus. And whether it's Biden or Trump winning, we actually can have a better 2021. Well, I think that there is a 50-50 shot on the stimulus plan being put out, although I'm still more in the camp that it will be, just because Powell now is joining the party along with Mnuchin and Pelosi, and we know Trump wants to get it done before the election because he wants to be able to say that the stock market is doing great. But then again, it's really going to be a matter if the Democrats, and I don't think they have any reasons to be smug about being ahead in the polls. After all, Hillary Clinton was ahead in the polls as well before the election. If for some reason they got more smug about it, they can play a little bit more hardball, figuring that if they get in through Biden, or if the Senate goes blue, then they can pass the fiscal stimulus any way they want to. So it's a hard thing to call. The market is definitely thinking that something will be done, but right now I think the market is pretty high on the fact that they're looking at this Biden win, and we'll see if it happens. It could be a big shock. We never know. It certainly was a big shock in 2016, but we'll see what happens now. Well, it's interesting because value stocks have been the highest in terms of the ratio to growth that they've been for quite some time. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing for the market. I think a few weeks ago when we talked, I told you that value to growth was at a historical low, which was a precedence that hadn't been before, except before the crash in 29. And then again, I think before the big crash in 2008. So the fact that that's flipped is the best sign for the market. So if I were going to invest right now, yes, I would be looking for some of the value stocks that are really showing that they have not only possibly getting back over a certain amount of bottoming, basing out they've done, and there's a few out there like that. I would probably be looking still at the transportation sector, at the retail sector, and these small cap stocks that are doing well. But I'd also keep my eye on that dollar. We've talked about this before. I am still very concerned about the US dollar, because if that does continue to tank, it doesn't matter who the president's going to be. We will have that stagflation type of scenario or a hyperinflation type of scenario that might be food-based or raw material-based, and it'll also make the amount of money people have to spend, no matter how much money they get, worth less, and the cost of living keeps going up. That's kind of like the thorn that keeps sticking in my side before I get too heavily long anything at this point in the market.